Hello and welcome to the fourth talk in our 8-part Natural Abundance, Unnatural Waste programme here at the latest planted event held on Granary Square, King's Cross. As the only events and media company dedicated to promoting nature-based businesses and organisations through design, Planted is committed to effecting climate justice through inspirational and educational editorial content. Through our series of talks and events, we aim to make the commercial case for sustainability, exploring how food production, farming, architecture, design and nature can combine to create a cleaner, greener, healthier future. This talk, generously sponsored by Flexi-Hex, is titled Wasting Away. Packaging waste and carbon consumption is a huge problem across almost every industry, not least in the design world, where even beautifully thought through products can come wrapped in bubble wrap or embedded with carbon. What is the scale of the waste problem, and what role can design play in solving it? And what can be done to radically reduce carbon consumption to avert climate and societal breakdown? And I'm delighted to welcome a wonderful lineup of expert panellists whose passion, knowledge and shared common ground of nature and the environment should ensure a fascinating hour of discussion ahead. First to my left, Bella Collins, the Managing Director of Flexi-Hex, a Cornish-based company who design and manufacture innovative and sustainable packaging systems which are both fully compostable and designed to reduce ocean waste. Bella is a world record-breaking ocean rower, passionate about sustainability in all definitions, and from the culture of her team to the way Flexi-Hex do business with their suppliers and partners. So welcome, Bella.
Thank you.
Marie Carlisle, to Bella's left, is CEO and co-founder. Sorry, I apologise. Marie Carlisle, to the far left, is CEO and co-founder of Goldfinger, a design-led social enterprise which crafts timeless bespoke furniture, such as the beautiful pieces in front of us here, and from locally sourced and reclaimed materials. Goldfinger, she founded Goldfinger in 2013, or since Goldfinger launched in 2013. Marie has helped to transform the company from a grassroots community project into an award-winning social enterprise. In 2018, Marie was awarded a scholarship to attend Harvard Business School's course for non-profit leaders. So welcome to you, Marie, as well. And finally, sitting in the middle, is Marie McLeod, CEO of KanKan. Mary is a nature appreciator and experienced retail buyer. Delivering commercial success across a breadth of product areas, she worked with global brands from high street players through to luxury. A lover of product but disillusioned with the buy more culture and lack of good choices, she embarked on starting Cancan with co-founder Eliza Flanagan, and together they're on a mission to find a no-sacrifice solution to reducing single-use plastics in the home. Welcome to all three of you. We're really delighted to have you here at Planted today. Thank you for all of your time. So I guess we're going to start off just by hearing a little bit about your personal journeys, if I may, just to understand how you got to the point of being so involved, so committed to the point where you've effectively taken your career into the world of sustainability. Bella, what's your sort of motivating force?
Yeah, my sort of sustainability journey started on a holiday, actually. I was in Haiti with my mum. My mum used to live and work in Haiti about sort of 40 years ago. And it was in Haiti where they came reliant on imports into the country. And that means, importing foods that are wrapped in a lot of packaging, but there wasn't the infrastructure in that country to handle that waste and what to do with it. And I've never seen such piles of rubbish in my life. I mean, they were just like any spare spot they had in any of the cities was just piled in rubbish. Their beaches were piled in it. They were putting pigs in the rivers to try and clear up some or eat any waste that was in there. And for me, it was really alarming because in a country like ours, in a city like London, it's all tidied away for us. It's put in a bin, and we don't see it. We don't see actually what we are creating. We're creating just as much waste as they are in Haiti. We're just getting it tidied away for us, and it's not being dealt with, and it's not in front of us. And seeing that in Haiti and seeing actually this is everything that we're producing made me want to sort of work in an industry that was helping to tackle that.
Thanks, Bella. That's, and I guess potentially a lot of that waste is actually coming from us as well. Mary, if you could tell us a bit about your journey.
Sure. Well, thanks, Sam, for the intro. And as you mentioned, I have come from a background in retail buying. And largely, so much of that did involve, really, really promoting products and, really encouraging this idea of consumption. And I think it just started to really jar with me. There were products within our mix that I really, really believed in, but there were a huge amount that I didn't. And so for me, it really first of all came from a place of making a decision about taking that experience and my love of great quality product and trying to channel that into something that is better. And then in terms of how KanKan came about, I have started KanKan with a friend, Eliza Flanagan, and we were on a camping trip, and it's amazing when you're in nature that where the inspiration comes from. And it was on this family camping trip where we really started to talk about these changes we were trying to make in our lives, better choices for our families, and this sort of shared frustration we both had, where we were really trying hard, sharing our fails, and we were just frustrated by the fact that we wanted to have better choices, but we didn't want to sacrifice on how nice the product smelt, how good they looked in our homes. We didn't want to kind of go through all of that. So although at that point we had no idea about KanKan or soap in cans, we just made this commitment that we were determined to find a solution. And then 2 years later, KanKan came.
Thanks, Mary. So, Marie, tell us about your story.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's lovely to hear the similarities in our stories. And my sustainability journey actually starts in Hong Kong, where I grew up. I was about. And people think, oh, Hong Kong, what's sustainable about Hong Kong? But similar to you, it's a city that's so polluted and where there's so much waste visibly just everywhere. And I remember this moment, I was only 8 years old, being on a boat and having spent the weekend, on the beach and hiking. And there's actually a very rural side of Hong Kong. And I actually spent my childhood climbing trees and picking shells by the sea. And coming back into the Hong Kong harbour, seeing this thing floating towards us, and as we got closer to it, having to maneuver around it, realizing it was an industrial-sized fridge that had been thrown into the ocean. And I remember even as that 8-year-old girl, how that made me feel, and it was so obvious that this was a man-made problem. We were destroying our oceans, destroying our planet, and something had to be done about it. And I was 8, so no, I did not start Goldfinger when I was 8, but that was the seed where it was sown. And then similarly to you, I in the similar journey around loving beauty, loving and think they have beautiful objects have a real important thing in our purpose in our lives. I went into the luxury industry in fashion and beauty, so couldn't be more unsustainable. But being in those resource-intensive industries really gave me the impetus I needed to go and start something myself. And what the big realization is, why did beauty have to come at the expense of people and planet? And why were there so few brands that were creating genuinely design-led beautiful objects that were putting people and planet first? And that's how it all began.
Thanks very much, guys. That's fascinating. So, Bella, coming back to you now, talking about products that put people and planet first. I think Flexi-Hex was particularly interesting to Planted as an events company, where we set up these events. We're trying to run events that have as light a footprint as possible on the planet. We think we can run events in a very different way to the way they've been run in the past. So to hear that there was a company out there that could basically connect with other partners and brands that we work with in order for product to arrive here, which isn't wrapped in single-use plastic, bubble wrap, the sort of scourge of packaging, really. Can you tell us a little bit about what Flexi-Hex do and how you came to kind of meet the guys and what the actual product does?
Yeah, absolutely. So Flexi-Hex was founded by two surfers. They were originally designers in sort of the commercial interiors and furniture world. So they have that creativity, they have that design approach to tackling sustainable problems or sort of plastic problems. And one day, Sam, he received a surfboard in the post, and we've all had that experience where you've saved up your money, you've ordered something you've been wanting for a really long time, and then it comes in the post, and you have an awful unpacking experience where you're tearing at tape and you can't open it, and then you're left with loads of plastic, and then you've got to stuff it into your tiny bin in the corner of your kitchen. Like, it's just not a good experience. And he just thought there must be someone doing better than this. And with that design mind that he had, he went out and he sort of experimented with loads of different materials and found this honeycomb core, which is manufactured across the world. You'll find honeycomb core in IKEA doors, for example. It's really strong. And he said, well, let me use this material, but I'm gonna use it in a different way. And he came up with this sleeve. I don't know if you can maybe help demonstrate it for me, but it's an expandable sleeve like this, and it can come in a small version that's made of tissue paper, or something as big as this, which can go over sort of things like doors or mirrors. So it's entirely made of recycled paper. I'm just going through FSC certification at the moment. We are a B Corp certified company. It was originally made for surfboards, for that experience that Sam was had. But yeah, we now work with KanKan here. We're breaking into the cosmetics industry, electronics industry, and we're based in Cornwall. So for us, it's all about protecting our marine environments. That's our sort of core mission statement, essentially, is to stop this waste ending up in the environment, which is our playground.
So interesting how the role the sea plays in inspiring change as well, and recognising the damage, because that's where everything ends up ultimately, isn't it? But thanks so much for that, Bella. And Mary, in terms of KanKan, some of you might be in the audience sitting there with the KanKan bottles. Could you tell us a little bit about what KanKan actually do?
Sure. So the very short answer is that we put soap in cans, but we are so much more than that, and we're really promoting this the benefits of refill and reuse. But actually, it's about what's inside the can, and what we really want people to have is an amazing, joyful experience in the shower, and that kind of harnessing that the amazingness of nature. So we use all essential oils. It's all vegan. The really beautiful fragrance products. And really that experience in your daily wash, and that actually that we've done all the hard work of making the packaging, as best as it can be. But what you have here is our glass bottle. So we launched to market with our pilot offer, and for us it was really, really important to come to market and just really test if people got what we were doing. I should have brought some cans, but we do quite literally use an aluminium drinks can. For the reason why we do that is because it is a really fantastic circular resource. So it's infinitely recyclable. We wanted to not reinvent the wheel. There's lots of amazing innovations coming to market, but we wanted to take something that was pre-existing and just repurpose it and see if people really got that and connected with that. So it's an aluminium can, and you dispense the product into the bottle, and this is our pilot offer. So there's a voucher there if you would like to enjoy it, but what we really want you to do is just use it to refill and reuse anything in the home. But where we are moving to, and this is our V2 of the brand, which is going to be launching towards the end of this year in a bit of a phased approach, is that we are turning the can into the permanent item. So what we have on top, and when we get into talking about the importance of design when it comes to designing out waste, this contraption on top just simply clicks onto the can. So really trying to elevate this reuse and refill experience. It's allowing us to broaden our product offer, because at the moment when it comes to pouring, there's only a certain amount of products that you can pour. And so to really extend and broaden our product offer and for us to scale, we've had to use packaging and develop packaging to make that scalability happen for us. And we hope in the process it's going to really make the whole experience so pleasurable and so easy. Why wouldn't you?
Thanks so much. Marie, when we were talking about circular design, I guess, and we're talking about designing out waste, I mean, where does Goldfinger fit into that picture?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all the same language. We really are a circular furniture maker, and we're looking at some of it here. So we basically design and make furniture from the most sustainable wood possible, and by sustainable, because that word has lost a lot of meaning in the last few years as everyone's using it, we mean wood that has traveled as little as possible from point of origin to manufacturing. And so we actually have a workshop underneath the Trellick Tower in West London in Notting Hill. So we get to say made in Notting Hill, which is quite a rare claim. And originally working with actually donated woods. So really wood that has had another life. And that is the most sustainable by all measures. But there's not enough of it. So we are making, we've had parquet flooring from Imperial College, or the Christmas windows from Harvey Nichols donated their wood from one of their window schemes. So it's interesting wood with a story. But we needed more. The orders, we're making furniture for homes and businesses, a lot of hotels and restaurants, and offices as well. Actually, soon to be Thomas Heatherwick's office, just right here, which is very exciting. And so everyone else was using FSC and PEFC, and there's nothing wrong with that. They are doing fantastic work. They are sustainably managed forests. However, there's very little talk about where the wood comes from, the origin of that wood. FSC, if you look at it, often comes from Canada or the US or Asia, as far as the Far East or Eastern Europe. So no one's talking about the transport miles to get that wood, which is a heavy thing to ship. And why weren't we using more local woods? And that's when we discovered the Grown in Britain certification. So really working with only British trees. And we've recently taken it a step further and actually started working with public and private landowners and tree surgeons and timber merchants across the country to salvage the trees that are being felled for natural reasons. I don't know if you've ever seen trees falling down during a storm, or because of disease, all the ash dieback that everyone's talking about, and Dutch elm disease, and what's happening to those trees. And we did a little bit of digging, and it turns out that in London alone, about 5,000 mature trees get cut down every single year. And you want to guess what happens to those trees if this intervention wasn't happening? Anybody want to try to guess? Yes, exactly. Chipped for biofuel, basically burnt for very little energy recovery. And one of the principles, as you'll know, of the circular economy is use materials at their highest value. Burning wood is not using it at its highest value. So that's been really exciting, and we call that tree-cycled wood. And it's really that frontier between virgin and reclaimed, because it would have been destined for being wasted, but instead we make a beautiful furniture, and we actually have started stamping the GPS coordinates of where the tree once stood on our product. So I'm going to pass around this board so you can have a little look. So that summarizes it in a nutshell, but we go a little step further with our business model, which is that we don't believe sustainability is just about the planet, but also about people. And so we reinvest the profits of our enterprise into our Goldfinger Academy, which is training people from disadvantaged backgrounds into making and sustainable design in the circular economy.
Amazing, thank you so much. I mean, Bella, coming back to let's really focus on what circularity is in design. Again, something that we absolutely loved about the Flexi-Hex product was the fact it's fully compostable, but it's also made from recycled materials. So can you talk a little bit about, just as Marie has with Goldfinger, but the materials that go into the Flexi-Hex product, and why is it so important that we move away from single-use plastic in our packaging?
I mean, it's important in every aspect of your life. Like, the world doesn't have an infinite amount of resources, and if we want to, a planet where our children and the generations underneath us enjoy it the way that we've been enjoying it today, it's really important that we find better ways to use our resources. So for us at the moment, we use 100% recycled paper, but we have to go further than that. We're a really young company. We were founded in 2018, so we have to be competitive, and we are up against plastic, essentially. That's what we're trying to replace. So at the moment, we have to manufacture in India and China at the moment. But we want to be transparent about that. We want to be accountable to that. And I think that being circular is really hard. It's a really hard thing to get your head around. And for big businesses, it's a big sort of transition for a business to go to that. So I think for Flexi-Hex, we like to have an honest conversation and say, this is where we are today. We would like to be more circular because that is the way the planet needs to go. And it is about, almost going beyond circular and saying, actually, how can we be more positive? How can we put more back into the planet than we're taking? That's where we would love to be eventually, but that's going one step beyond even being circular.
So, I mean, in simple terms, why is it so hard to be circular?
Because it's a very big supply chain, and it's a big world, but it's actually quite well connected, and to see a resource and bring it right back into the same business is really hard. So I think for me in my head, there's two terms of circularity. There's circularity in your business, where, say, with our sleeves, we produce the paper, and it is returned to us, and we either reuse that product or use the material again for another use. But there's circularity and also in the whole supply chain, and thinking, okay, well, our paper can be used again, and it's going to be made into a newspaper or another product. But paper has about 5-6 times use, unlike aluminium, which is a fantastic material that is infinitely recyclable. So we are, as a company, Flexi-Hex, are trying to look at other materials that we can make our sleeve out of that might be more circular, even more circular than even recycled paper. Again, that's something that as we grow, we'll continue investigating it. So that could be paper made out of seaweed. Really exciting. Seaweed grows really quickly. It absorbs quite a lot of carbon dioxide. That can get made into paper. That can get the recycling side of that. we're still looking into what that means. But there's a lot of innovation happening out there to try and make businesses more circular. And I think that it's about starting that journey. I think a lot of people are sort of putting the pressure on to be circular today is a really, really big ask.
Thanks, Bella. Marie McLeod from Cancan. I mean, in terms of consumer demand, let's talk about consumerism. I think you touched on the fact that there's this sort of acceleration of demand, which seems to be something that we all probably recognise needs to be massively reined in, really, and just our attitudes to consumption need to shift, frankly. But you're responding to a demand in a way. Is that fair? That your consumers, your audience, still want to retain the quality and all the beauty and the feel of having a fantastic shower experience, but also want the circularity and the sustainability built in as well.
I think absolutely. I think there is a huge want and shift from consumers in that being part of that process, and I think there's so much responsibility on us as brands to deliver that. I can touch on sort of how we bring circularity into KanKan, and I think to build on what Bella said, I think it's quite a mindset shift, isn't it? So it's a really, really small example because it's very much a journey for us. Within our HQ, we have a policy where, any packaging that comes into us, we keep to try and reuse. And it's a really small thing, but I think it's just at every aspect of the business. What is happening at that end of life? So for us, what's inside the can, when it's washing down the drain, is it biodegrading? Is it safe, for our waterways? And so it's so important. We can't just be about, the can. It's got to be all kind of touch points of that. And I think back to what you said, Marita, about using, at the highest kind of level. And so where we're moving to with the can, we want that product to stay in the can for longer. And the other thing we have done right from the get-go is this idea around regeneration. We've always planted a tree for every can we sell. So for us, again, it's just this idea of course, we're trying to offset stuff as much as possible, but we are taking, and so there has to be in the model an element of giving back. And so for us, that was kind of that step right from the beginning that we decided to take.
Thank you. Marie, can we talk about sort of price points and sustainability is expensive, isn't it? It costs. Bella and Mary have talked about the fact that it's really challenging to do this properly. So that cost has to get passed on somewhere. How do we square that with the fact that so many people want to actually consume in a more respectful way for the environment, but it's just so expensive?
Yeah, this question comes up every time on a panel, and it's so important and relevant because sustainability has been really quite exclusive for the last few years, and it needs to become more inclusive. And accessibility is a huge aspect, and we've talked about why doing things sustainably is just more expensive. The supply chains aren't built. We're pioneering. We're small businesses. We don't have these economies of scale yet. And so there's I have sort of multiple ways to answer that. But one you've touched on, Mary, which is mindset shifts. So we are very much about encouraging people to buy for a lifetime. We don't want people to buy a table from us every 3 years or 5 years. We're wanting them to buy their table for their entire life, and actually to pass it on as an heirloom. It's for generations and generation. And so that connects to design, that it's at the design-led stage, that we're not chasing fads or trends. It's timeless designs, we hope, that will stand the test of time. And that's why we only use solid wood as well, because it has an infinite potential to be recycled, reused, sanded back to reveal a new surface. So I think there's that element of not trying to encourage consumption. So for us, success is actually someone buying one table and keeping it forever. Another aspect that I think we have been able to do and introduce is financing, actually spreading out the cost of these large items, expensive items where someone says, well, I want to, but I just can't afford it. And just being able, these buy now, pay later, Klarna, ClearPay, all of those, I think is helping to make things a bit more accessible. And the final piece, which is a frontier that we are still exploring, but is exploring rental. We are really moving into this sharing economy where people don't own homes. We've got Airbnb, we don't own cars, there's Uber, and it's happening in the fashion industry. What does furniture rental look like? Because there is undoubtedly a need. Some people want the change every couple of years, but then rather than having to dispose of it, it comes back to us and either we reuse it or rent it out again. So I think there's many ways of looking at it, but it definitely starts with designing for the longevity of the item and what happens to it end of life so it continues to be of use.
Thanks so much. I guess a lot of it comes down to partnering as well, and who you partner with, and strength in numbers, isn't it? And that's certainly something we're trying to do with Planted, is promote all the brands like yourselves who have the environment and nature as a sort of common thread to build those partnerships, introduce you to different brands and partners who and an audience of people who are craving this sort of environmentally led design and consumption, but recognise that need to consume less as well. Bella, if I may, how do you guys again, sort of, you've obviously created this wonderful product, which is very much focused on the environment. How do you actually choose who you work with? Are you quite picky with who you work with, or do you just say, look, whatever you're doing, if we're giving you this product, it's still better than what you're doing already? So that's progress. Yeah,
from a customer point of view, yes. I mean, if they want to use us, if they're not sustainable in every part of the supply chain, I don't think we would turn them away in terms of we are removing plastic, where we are preventing them from using something that is having a bigger impact on the planet than our solution. So I don't think we're in a position to stop them from doing that. But we do turn customers away in terms of being a small business. There are so many opportunities that can come your way, and you've got to look at the ones that are in line with your business model. You've got to make sure that they are in tune with your vision of where you want to go, because they're not a big shiny toy in the corner that's going to distract you from where actually your plan and your route's going. So we turn businesses more away because of that, over sort of actually they're not the right fit. We don't believe that their values match ours, because actually the more that they can take one step at a time, why would you stop them? Because they might not be perfect, but I don't believe anybody's perfect. Absolutely. And Mary, in terms of sort of I guess another thing that can prevent scaling up is financing as well. What role? There's an amazing opportunity here, isn't there? If we're saying that the demand is out there, but often it's the supply chains that stop things from getting delivered, from being produced and being done in this way, but there's a massive opportunity here for actual sustainable investment, more green thinking in the way that people spend their money.
Yeah, absolutely. As a small business, we've had to be, really, really resourceful, and we've gone to market in a pilot, and we've garnered so many learnings from that we've been able to put into our V2. But also a big part of that has been the financing bit of it. To come to market with products that have been developed from scratch, with packaging that's been developed from scratch, there's a huge amount of resource that's involved in that. So for us, the honest truth is that financing is needed to really accelerate that. Fortunately, we've found some great partners that have allowed us to get to market. So just for us with Flexi-Hex, if I give that as an example, if you're looking at e-com packaging and the cost that it comes to create those SKUs, when people can buy in such a variety of ways, the amount of SKUs you need to carry can be huge. But one of the things we loved about Flexi-Hex is how flexible it is in terms of being able to work across our product offer as well as all the other amazing benefits of how durable and fantastic it looks and feels. But I mean, I think financing is a massive opportunity for us to really, really accelerate change. And I think for us, back to that price point thing, you know, we are at the premium end of the market. We know that we aren't ever going to be able to touch everyone, but I do hope that we are challenging and demonstrating to some of the larger organisations out there that there are alternative ways and models, and if we can kind of disrupt that and make that noise collectively, I think there is sort of that, you know, broader impact that we can make.
Marion, could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, in terms of how you kind of square that circle again between, you know, the price point. I know you've talked about essentially longevity in the product, but in terms of how you guys keep the business going despite all the challenges that there are around the supply and that all the challenges that are presented to you.
Yeah, I think I said this to you when we were speaking the other day, that for us, waste is just a resource in the wrong hands. And that resource has a monetary value. And this is where carbon accounting becomes a really, for people who are just, you know, maybe naysayers and don't really get it, if you look at it, you're wasting money. For us, you know, the trees that are getting burned, instead of, that's burning money. Those trees have value. And I think if we can start looking at it in that way, there's a real opportunity for sustainability practices to actually help the bottom line. As I said, we're all small, and it's still pushing against a tide of people who are not doing that. So it's still very, very challenging for us. But I think we're really starting to see the shift in consumer mindsets around it. And I think for example, with the table, the fact that, yes, it's more expensive, but if you're using it for your whole life, spread that cost over your whole life. It's actually cheaper than buying a table that's going to break or that you don't like after 5 years. So there is asking a lot from the consumer there, but I think that for businesses to start seeing waste as a resource is really that it's going to have value for someone if it's not you, and finding the ways. And that at the moment is an inefficient process. The reason why there's so much waste is because it's cheaper and quicker and faster. And but I think businesses are now caring more to ask and find solutions for their waste.
Bella, your response to that?
I think like coming back to, like, we're here to talk about design, and I think that's where design comes into play, because that material, whether it's waste, is somebody's, like, you know, material to design and play with. And I think that's where we can be really creative and bring that innovation in and say, okay, well let's look at this material in a new light. And I think that's where Sam and Will were really clever. They said, okay, this is material that already exists. It's same with aluminium, and saying, okay, well, like, let's approach it a new way and let's design out, you know, the problems in the packaging world. And it is, I mean, whether you can take these materials and set challenges to designers, but using that creativity, because, yeah, there's a whole world of things that you can do with materials that are already out there.
Mary, that's a really exciting thing, isn't it, from a design perspective, that we recognise that there's a massive waste problem, but where there are massive problems, there are massive opportunities as well.
Absolutely, huge opportunities. And I think the circular economy just, I think, really resonates in all aspects of life. Just this idea of keeping things in use, and that huge, like, just really respecting the value of that resource. I think just to touch on the kind of opportunity with design. So we've had the fortunate chance to work with Marama, who are industrial product designers, and to really, like, it's so exciting to see people that really skilled in that field and kind of what they can achieve and do. I know they've just done a big project with Wagamama. That's, you know, the outcome from that is so exciting in terms of the amount of single-use plastic that's being saved as a result of good design. I know for the work they've done with us, you know, the idea of, again, this end of life, and, you know, if something was to break in this, it can be replaced, what kind of materials are going into it into the first place, and then, you know, really considering every aspect of how it can end its life and making sure there's a kind of solution for that. So I'm all for design to help change the world on that.
Thanks, Mary. I mean, don't want to get too political, but I guess at this particular moment in time, it's slightly difficult not to in some regards when we've had a budget as we did yesterday. But is it sometimes in the current political environment easy to get sort of disillusioned with where we're going, where you were talking a lot about individualism and moving away from kind of collective responsibility? I mean, I don't know if you've got any comments on that, Marie, at all. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No worries. No, it's hot topic. How to? I mean, government's role in the sustainability. It's important. Legislation is important. We need it. We absolutely need more of it. But I've always believed in the power of business to drive change much quicker than business anyway. Than government. And so yes, it is dismaying what's happening. It feels that we just don't have that support, but it's not going to stop us. And I think that what really gave me a lot of hope was to see last week this corporate leaders group. I don't know if any of you saw this, the CLG, huge consortium of companies in the UK, including Dan and Google, Amazon, Grosvenor Estates, who are one of our partners, putting a huge amount of pressure on the government to put net zero agendas, nature conservation, restoration of the environment at the heart of the government's policy. So we have allies, and I really do believe that we're not going to be slowed down by this government. Bella, that's my eternal optimism.
And we share that absolutely. And Bella, and your response to that as well?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in collaboration, and actually just because the government's not putting something into place doesn't mean that we should be stopped. And part of that is that collaboration of companies coming together, and 10 voices is much louder than one. And we just got B Corp certified, as I mentioned earlier, and as a tiny company in the depths of a fishing village at the end of Cornwall, it's really hard to get your voice out there. But being part of this B Corp certification and community means that I came up to London yesterday and I did a talk with 8 other B Corp brands, and we were sharing lessons and learnings about what challenges we have in a business from a sustainability point of view, where we actually really excelled, and where we can share those lessons with other people. We can join our audiences together so that they're hearing things together, and I think it just makes you feel like actually there is hope, there is opportunity, there is people that are wanting to do the same things as you, and I think that's what keeps the positivity, because it is so hard in the current climate to get a bit depressed about it all and get really pulled down, but it's about focusing on the positives and the voices that are out there.
Let's talk B Corp for a little bit, if we could. It's a sign that some of the people here may know a lot about, but also something that other people may just see on the packaging, this little B with a circle around it. I mean, can you explain a little bit about B Corp and what they actually do and why you're associated with them?
Yeah, no problem. So B Corp is B Corp certified. It's a globally recognised certification that doesn't just look at your sort of a carbon footprint or the environmental sort of side of your product, but it actually looks at your entire business. So whether you are treating your suppliers and your partners correctly, are you treating your staff well? What's your carbon footprint? What's your product? What are your processes and standing operating procedures? It really digs into every single part of the business. It can take people years to certify, and you have to sort of meet a minimum score requirement, and then at that point you have to commit essentially to changing your laws of association in your business. You are committed to being a profitable business, but using that business for a good purpose essentially. So it's a brilliant certification. I highly recommend anybody looking into it, because it really helps set the foundations for any company wanting to be a good business.
And it's a statement of intent in many ways, I suppose, because it takes time, doesn't it? As you touched on there, it's not easy to get a B Corp certification.
No, and we just managed to get in there, even with a product that's as sustainable as ours. We only got a score of about 86, which most average businesses are 50. Some score as low as 20. So we're like, okay, here's our line in the sand, and it is the start of the journey, not the destination. And we've got a really, really long way to go to improve our own sustainability credentials at Flexi-Hex, and it's about making ourselves accountable, being transparent with that, and sharing it with the community.
Mary, my apologies, I'm actually not. Are you guys on the B Corp journey?
We are on the B Corp journey.
Same as Planted as well.
We are on the B Corp journey, and I think back to the idea and the importance of funding to go to businesses in this space. I think the reality of a small business is you're juggling so much. So we have been in the midst of fundraising that has taken huge amounts of our time. So our B Corp application has had to pause while we're doing that. So I think, but we are absolutely so on board with everything it stands for. And I think, like you, really explained really well, Bella. It's definitely a journey. So I'm excited by what it's going to really help guide us with some of our future decision making.
And I'd say for Planted, we're in exactly the same place as you, Mary, because putting on events is really hard work and it takes a huge amount of time, but we're absolutely committed to B Corp as well, and we're going down that road as well. Marie, Goldfinger, B Corp?
Yeah, it's very, very topical. We submitted our assessment yesterday.
Amazing, well done.
So after 9 months of doing it, and our journey to B Corp. So yeah, to echo what Bella said, it's I think the most rigorous and the most globally recognized accreditation. But for us, it was an interesting one. We had an unusual relationship coming at it from a social enterprise angle, where our entire mission is social and environmental. So we were set up. We're a community interest company, so we're a regulated social enterprise. So when we saw the likes of Coutts Bank and Evian becoming B Corps, we thought, is this greenwashing? What is this? Actually, do we want to become a B Corp? Is this lesser than our social enterprise status? And it was really interesting to really explore that and talk to other B Corp companies and realize that what it does is it gives you, so yes, a lot of our practices were possibly better than, so the scoring for us was not an issue, it was the other way around. What it does give you is a framework, a really, really rigorous framework and best practices that you may be doing just because your heart sort of takes you there naturally, but to actually have a framework and a community of people who are championing that is what really turned it on its head for me. Of like, it's not lesser than social enterprise, it's just an addition. And I really believe in a world where one day I think businesses will just procure from other B Corps, and they'll say, we work with a lot of hotels, and the hotel will say, well, we want a B Corp furniture maker, we want B Corp packaging, we want B Corp drinks and soaps, and that's just the way it's going to be. It's just a stamp of approval. That is really rigorous, and so the companies don't have to do that due diligence themselves because B Corp is doing it for them.
I think it's something we're also thinking about at Planted, is just running an event with B Corp businesses or B Corp businesses that are just going down that process, because we're always trying to essentially check whether the credentials of a business. It's really hard to know that we're partnering with businesses on the same journey as us who are trying to achieve the same things, but that B Corp certification is like an accelerator, and it makes and there is an amazing community of brands there now.
Exactly.
Can I go back a little bit to inspiration and reasons for optimism? We talked at the beginning about what got you guys into this journey, but looking out there again, talking to a world of consumers, we are all people that purchase things, but who are the other organisations that really inspire you, Bella? Who's out there that you look at and go, yeah, we'd be in the right place if we were like them?
I'm going to be loyal to our Cornish brands here. So I think for me, one of them is Finisterre. I think that they really look at every single part. So people who aren't aware of Finisterre, it's a clothing brand. It's sort of made for adventures, times outside, wetsuits, really good jackets, that type of thing. And they are B Corp certified as well. And I just like their approach. So they've just sort of taken a couple of lessons from Patagonia, and they're sort of giving lifetime guarantees on their jackets. So if your zip breaks, then you can sort of send it back to them and they'll fix it. They're really looking at wetsuits. I'm a terrible surfer, but a surfer, and actually the wetsuit industry is quite a polluting industry. So they're looking at, okay, well, how can we change this, and how can we sort of use similar materials, but more sustainably sourced, and have a better end of life use as well. So for me, Finisterre is up there, and I sort of look at everything they're doing and try and take note. Yeah. It's
amazing what surfers are doing to change the planet, isn't it, when it comes to consumption? You've got Sam and the founders of Flexi-Hex, Finisterre out there as well, and I'm a big admirer of what Surfers Against Sewage have done and continue to do to highlight the issues around the terrible pollution in our water system.
I think when you have a life that's on the ocean, I've done a couple of ocean crossings, and it really makes you respect Mother Nature and the power of it, and we all must be humble to it. And I think when you get out on the water, it gives you that time to take some headspace, to take a deep breath and think, okay, what can I do and what can I be doing better? And I think there's a lot out there about blue health, and I recommend anybody, even sitting near water. I think it just helps you just take a moment, I guess. Yeah.
The power of biophilia. And Mary, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah, so I think two brands that come to mind is we love people doing really fantastic things with promoting the refill and reuse model. One of our favourite is a neighbourhood brand of ours. They're called Dubba Drop. If anyone's London based, they do amazing vegan curries delivered to your door. So what's inside is really, really delicious. And just they've done an amazing job with that community. And I think, again, really demonstrating the kind of model that can exist with refill and reuse. And then on the personal care side of the market, because, when we first started our research, Eliza and I were really frustrated that we had a lack of choices within the home that really were pushing on the boundaries of both good design and great quality of product. And I think we can really see there is a great amount of brands really coming into that space. So Dame do fantastic products for period care, and obviously that's not only packaging, but again it's this what's inside. So they're really addressing all areas, and then also really about changing the agenda around talking in that space. And I think we're really always so impressed with what they're doing.
Marie, to you, please.
It may be cliche, but I have to say Patagonia. Right now, especially with what, for those of you, Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, donated his apparel wear company worth $3 billion to nature conservation, to climate change, to fight climate change. And he's always been at the forefront. I read his book, Let My People Go Surfing. The surfing comes back. The world is really changed by surfers, isn't it? And connection to oceans, that's what it is. As around people, around planet, it's really a business that really put it, before there was B Corp, before there was all of these things, just from one man's vision to put people and planet first and to discourage as much as possible consumption. And what he's done, it was announced last week in donating his company effectively, really just for me, what really struck me is it just, as founders, we're always looking at, what does succession planning look like? And that just puts a totally different spin and a fascinating one on succession planning and how you really ensure that your company's legacy is, stays with the company even after you go. And so I'm really inspired by Patagonia.
I think it's entirely worthy that Patagonia get a name check on this stage for sure. So that's a great shout. I mean, without Bella asking you to commit your business to doing what Patagonia have done, but the future for you guys, what would you like to see the next 2 to 3 years looking like for your business?
Yeah, well, we have a couple of things we need to do. So one is, like I mentioned earlier, the paper innovation. So seeing, what innovations are there? So it's not just seaweed, there's grass papers, there's hemp. What innovations are there that we can make sure we are staying on the forefront of that innovation? The second thing is obviously we, as I mentioned earlier, we manufacture in China and India at the moment. So how can we start manufacturing closer to source and making sure that we are moving that product as fewer miles as possible? So one of those is getting investment into the company, into automation, so that we can set up automation in our manufacturing process and therefore manufacture it closer to source. So for us, they're two really big things that will make a huge impact on our carbon footprint and our sort of entire life cycle analysis. And that's something actually I want to mention. So there's a lot of focus on carbon and carbon neutral, but I think that it's much bigger than that. You have to look at the entire sort of more holistic approach to, what is this material doing and where is it ending? And that's the circularity of it beyond just the carbon footprint. So that's sort of our next couple of challenges, I guess.
Thanks, Bella. Mary, next steps for KanKan.
So, I mean, we have really big ambitions to make impact, and the way we feel we can make impact is we have to scale. So we have been in this pilot phase, and for us coming out of this pilot phase, I mean, packaging is actually a really integral part to us scaling. So that is going to facilitate more products, being able to go into new markets and increase channels. So for us, really packaging is going to help that scalability. So for us, it is really moving from this pilot phase into, the bigger, wider world.
And lastly, if I may, to you, Marie.
I think the There are so many ways to answer this question, but there's definitely scale. And for us, what's exciting in terms of exploring is a social franchise model. Is how we scale, but in a way that doesn't involve us shipping large tables all across the world because of obvious reasons, the carbon associated with that transport. And so looking at, and we're starting to get demand from the US, from Asia, from Europe, and how we could, again, co-locate production to where the trees are, to where the client is. And so that's a really exciting frontier for us, is how we scale the model without, shipping our very huge product compared to yours that are much lighter, all over the world, and really tapping into more supply chains of trees that are being felled for natural reasons in other geographies. So that's a really exciting frontier for us, as well as looking at rental models and take-back schemes. So those of really, again, trying to encourage circular consumption and making it easier and more accessible for the customer. As well as, I think, one thing that I was actually speaking to Oliver in the audience over there about the connection with well-being, is that our products, it's always been core to who we are as a social enterprise, but that wood as a material is profoundly, it makes you feel good being around it. And we read this study, I think done in Norway, I believe, that actually touching wood lowers your blood pressure compared to other materials. And there is this sense of feeling very kind of nurtured and from wood. And so I think that's something that is really, really topical in people's minds. And most of our clients really come to us because our furniture adds soul to their spaces, or they're looking for wellness in their office spaces or their hotels. And so I think that's a really interesting frontier to communicate more, because we do it, but we don't talk about it a lot. And so I think that's a really interesting one, being passionate about health and well-being myself.
You've got your work cut out.
I do. We do as a team. You
definitely do. And also don't forget that new business we talked about on the phone last week, which was going to my farmer, who's cutting down all those ash dieback trees and then not even bothering chipping them. He's just burning them right on his in his wood, and it's driving me mad.
Exactly. Any people who are connected to estates where trees are being cut down or falling down, get in touch. We need to transform them into beautiful furniture.
Use ash dieback trees. Don't burn ash dieback trees. Guys, thank you so much. That's been an absolutely fascinating conversation, and just like so many of the planted talks that we've been doing in the last couple of days, could sit here for hours and continue to talk. But it's really inspiring to hear the work you guys all are doing to change the world, change the way that we consume, create more circular systems, design out waste, and more power to you for what you're doing. It's really fantastic. So thank you to Bella from Flexi-Hex, to Mary from KanKan, to Marie from Goldfinger, 3 absolutely fantastic businesses who we're proud at Planted to promote and partner with. So that just leaves it to me to say thank you to all the panellists again. Thank you to watching our talks program. Thanks very much to Flexi-Hex in particular for sponsoring this talk, and our media partner Enki for Planted's talks program. Thanks to everyone at King's Cross for hosting us, and our AV team, Pytch and Solcell, who've ensured that this Planted event is the first ever design event that's run entirely off-grid through solar energy. Thanks to Voylok, who I must apologise to for not wearing their shoes on stage, as I promised to, but I will endeavour to put them on, and Oliver will be speaking at 1 o'clock in our Wasted Spaces talk, and he will be wearing Voylok shoes, and I'll be wearing Voylok shoes at 3 o'clock in our last talk this afternoon. But they are a wonderful product, and I urge you to go and look in our Wolf and Badger store just down on Cold Drops Yard, where they're available to check out. But you can find more about Planted and our events program and our growing community by visiting www.planted-community.co.uk. Thanks to you. My name's Sam Peters. This has been Wasting Away, and thank you so much for being here.